chapter entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge, text number 14.
Yes.
So just to recap on last week, 13. So the great souls, Mahatmas, so we're talking about the Mahatmas. And what it means to be a Mahatma is fully engaged in devotional service and having knowledge of Krishna, so knowing him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we mentioned, that a lot of people think that Krishna is an ordinary person. If they do know something about Krishna, then often they'll be thinking that he's just an ordinary person, some historic person 5,000 years ago, and he was a coward boy or as a king or something like that. But very few people know him as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the source of everything. Even when he was on the planet 5,000 years ago, Prabhupada mentions only a handful of people knew that Krishna was God. Most people saw him in some material way and thinking that he had a material body. And that was the previous verses in text 11 and 12 about atheistic people, how that they think that Krishna, when he comes to this world, when God comes to this world, that he has a material body like us. And by thinking like that, all their desires and hopes are frustrated like that. So their lives are not successful. In this life, they live a life of frustration and always being baffled in all their desires and everything. And at the end of life, they have to come back again. They have to come back to the material world because they haven't surrendered to Krishna, haven't accepted him as God, and that they're the servant of God. So they have to come back again. But the great souls, they've surrendered to Krishna, they're engaged in devotional service, they have a lot of knowledge of who Krishna really is. And so this verse today, text 14, is going to continue. What do they do? What do the Mahatmas do? What keeps them busy? Do they eat a lot? Do they sleep a lot?
They keep doing a meditation.
Yes. What kind of meditation? Silent meditation?
I don't know. It's different. I guess whatever their belief and things like that, and which parampara they belongs to, lineage, and then they follow that.
Yeah. There's 4 bona fide paramparas.
Yeah.
We're in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, starting from Lord Brahma, and then there's the Rudra Sampradaya, starting from Lord Shiva, the Kumara Sampradaya, starting from the 4 Kumaras, the 4 Brahmachari sons of Lord Brahma, and then there's the Lakshmi Sampradaya, starting from the Goddess of Fortune.
Yeah.
And one thing in common, they'll all be chanting God's names. They'll all be chanting God's names. Different names of God, of course. So I know some we know from, like Narada Muni, right? Narada Muni, he was often he was teaching his disciples to say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Vasudev is a name of Krishna, another name of Krishna. So some in some different lines they'll be chanting different names. But that's the first thing mentioned that the Mahatmas do in this text 14. Satatam kirtiyanto mam. So satatam means always, kirtiyanto means chanting, and mam means about Krishna. Like that. So let's read that verse. Satatam kirtiyanto mam.
Satatam kirtiyanto mam.
Yatantascha dridhavrataha.
Yatantascha dridhavrataha.
Asyantascha mam bhaktya.
Namastyastyacham bhaktya.
Nitya yukta upasate.
Nitya yukta upasate. Always chanting my glory, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion.
So this is the core activities of a great soul, a pure devotee. So the great soul is a pure devotee of the Lord, and completely focused on Krishna, or some form of Krishna. But like, it's interesting, at the end of the purport of text 13, it says here, the second to last sentence, they meditate only upon Krishna and Krishna consciousness. But even before that, it says, pure devotees are not even attracted by Krishna's other features, such as the four-armed Mahavishnu. They are simply attracted by the two-armed form of Krishna. They are not attracted to other features of Krishna, nor are they concerned with any form of a demigod or of a human being. They meditate only upon Krishna and Krishna consciousness. They are always engaged in the unswerving service of the Lord and Krishna consciousness. So yeah, Prabhupada's being very specific about who is a pure devotee. So he's saying here, pure devotees, they're fully devoted to the form of Krishna, not even other forms of God, but the form of Krishna. And that reminds me of one pastime where in Vrindavan, one time the gopis were playing a game with Krishna, and they were searching for Krishna, and Krishna was hiding in the forest. And then some of the gopis were getting very close to finding out Krishna's hiding place. So Krishna realized in a moment they're going to discover me. So he disguised himself as Lord Narayan. So he assumed a different form with another two arms. So he came out of the bushes with four arms and with, different ornaments and that than what he usually has, more formal kingly dress, opulent dress. And he popped out of the bushes. And how did the gopis react? That's the interesting thing. They said, Namo Narayana, we offer our respects to you, Lord Narayan. Can you please tell us where Krishna is? Have you seen Krishna? We're looking for Krishna. So they formally offered respect because they were, this is God, Narayan. In the Vedic culture, a lot of people had that understanding that Narayan is God. So he's the king of Vaikuntha and everything like that. And so they offered respect to him, great awe and reverence, but they didn't have any loving feelings towards that form of Lord Narayan. And then Radharani came close by and to see what's going on. And so there's this formal discussion going on with the gopis and Krishna and the of Lord Narayan. And then when Radharani came close, Krishna couldn't hold back his strong feelings and love for Radharani, and he couldn't sustain that disguise as Lord. So he manifested in his original form as Krishna. He couldn't keep the disguise, and then they were all, joking, so happy. But it just shows that a pure devotee like the gopis, they don't have any attraction even for other incarnations. Only Krishna's form. That's the only form that they're devoted to.
Like the Hanuman, he wants the Rama's only form with the bow and arrow and things. He doesn't want any other form, doesn't recognize. He was I heard that one of the lecture, the Maharaj, he said he was in the Puri. And then when he's seen that Mahaprabhu, and he says, "I am the Krishna." He says, "Okay, you may be, but you're not my Lord Rama." Then the Mahaprabhu showed that Lord Rama's form. Then he bowed down. Yes, you are the one, because he's got in his mind with the bow and
Yeah.
arrow in
Mm.
that form. Yeah, so the gopi has got that form. Yeah, okay.
Mm. Mm.
So, yeah.
So yeah, this is the life of a pure devotee. They're always chanting Krishna's glories. Satatam kirti antamam. Always chanting. Even like most photos you see of Prabhupada, there'll be something in common with all the photos. He'll have his japa bead and he'll be chanting japa. So he was, even if he's having a conversation with some scientists or Christians or devotees or whatever like that, he's got his japa beads there and he's softly chanting like that while everything else is going on. So yeah, always chanting. And even if he wasn't chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he was chanting in the form of preaching. That's also chanting. That's also kirtan. So he's preaching from the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. He's discussing some Krishna conscious subjects. So that's also kirtan. Not only, Hare Krishna is kirtan, but any talks in relationship with Krishna, that's also kirtan. It's said there's nama kirtan. That's speaking of the names of Krishna and singing the names of Krishna. And there's Leela Kirtan, that means talking about the pastimes of Krishna. Rupa Kirtan, speaking about the form of Krishna. And Guna Kirtan, speaking about the qualities of Krishna. So there's different aspects of Krishna, his name, his qualities, his past, like that. Any talks in relation with Krishna is all kirtan, like that.
Can I just ask our Prabhu, this is going to sound really ignorant, but the other day I was talking with Gail, and anyway, it was this conversation, and she said, "Oh no, but only Prabhupada brought in chanting 16 rounds, like no other." Like, because she's friends with the guy that's in the Prabhupada's godbrother, and they,
Yeah.
I don't think they have that as part of their vows to chant 16 rounds. And I said, but it wasn't just Prabhupada. I mean, it comes down through the Sampradaya that everybody's chanting Hare Krishna. But I didn't have enough knowledge to say, and I don't know like what happened when Prabhupada took vows, if in the Gaudiya Math or that's what they did. I really don't know. So I was just sort of interested to find out, because I know they were all chanting Hare Krishna, but like she was sort of saying, oh no, but Prabhupada's the only one that brought this in, it's all ISKCON. So I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say to that, and because I didn't know what to say, I didn't say anything.
Oh, that's okay. It's
I just was like, oh well, okay, I'll have to find out about that.
It's good that you just didn't blurt out something without knowing, because if you don't know something for sure, it's better to be silent. Because we don't want to say anything that's not true, So we should truth. So if we know what the truth is, then we should speak. If we don't, then better to be silent.
She was saying in a Bhagavatam that is about following the principles, but not about chanting Hare Krishna. And I haven't read all the Bhagavatam, so I couldn't say that. So.
I mean, the essence of all the scriptures is actually chant the holy name. So that's what the scriptures comes to, that conclusion that we should chant the holy name, especially in Kali Yuga. Actually, all the philosophy in the scriptures is to help us develop more faith, to bring us to the point where we chant the holy name. That's the perfect conclusion of all the philosophy. After hearing everything, that we decide to surrender to Krishna and chant his holy name. That's what all this talks are, to convince us, to come to that point. Actually, this is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, this 9th chapter. And so this chapter, and it's in the middle of the book as well. So there's 18 chapters. This is the 9th one. So this is the middle chapter. And it's also the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, this 9th chapter. And within the 9th chapter, this is in the middle of the chapter. And what does it say? Saradam Kirtayanto Mam. We should always chant. This is actually the essence of all the philosophy, is to chant God's names. And all the philosophies meant to bring us to that point. But in terms of chanting 16 rounds, it was Prabhupada that established that specific amount of japa was 16 rounds. Actually, his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, for the sannyasi disciples, who there was a majority of brahmachari, and then many of them became sannyasis, so a lot of sannyasis, and their minimum was 64 rounds.
Really?
Yep, their minimum was 64 rounds. So it's said when Prabhupada first came to America, coming from that background, what his guru said, chant 64 rounds, he said that to the early disciples, the everybody's interested, and they said that's impossible. But, they're hippies, they're not used to, so much austerities and doing all these things. So, I mean, they enjoyed kirtan like anything, but then chanting japa, that's another thing. Chanting on beads is, even there's quite a few devotees, they love kirtan, but some devotees not really into japa, not used to that kind of thing.
But is that the kirtan, if you do like a maybe 4-hour kirtan for Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare, that kirtan would not be counted as a japa?
No.
Okay.
No, japa means softly on your beads. Not you're singing with instruments, and you can't include that in your 16 rounds.
You're doing the same. But you're doing
I was in the kirtan for 4 hours. That means I've done my 16 rounds. No, it doesn't work like that.
But you're doing the same thing, Mahamantra, whether it's under japa
I
or a kirtan.
know, but that's, you can't include that in how many rounds you're doing.
Just to know,
And how are you going to count that? How are you going to count the kirtan singing? Because you're not.
You can just roughly say 4 hours. I mean,
No,
4 hours.
60
japa. Okay, for 10 japa, I'll do 10 round. Already done in 4 hours. I've got 8 to do, 6 to do.
You can't precisely count. How many names you've chanted in the kirtan. So when he told the disciples, the first ones, they said that's impossible, 64. So then he said, okay, 32. And they said, no, we can't do 32. And then he said, okay, 16, but that's rock bottom. That's it. No lower than 16. So actually, and like Prabhupada said later on, 16 is minimum, not maximum. So you can't do any less than 16, but more is better. Yeah. But because the Kali Yuga people not able to do more, so therefore 16. Actually, it's said.
If Prabhupada stay a little longer, then he might come down to 8.
No, they said that's rock bottom. No.
Because from 30 to 64 to 32, 32 to 16, he might come down to 8.
That's he's the acharya, so he can make these decisions, but none of us is qualified enough to make these kind of adjustments. We call that an adjustment. It's not changing the principle, because we're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If you change the mantra or whatever, then you've removed the essence, the principle. But he hasn't done that. He's just made an adjustment as to how much chanting is going on. But like he said, he encouraged devotees to chant more than that.
Yeah.
But when he was a married man, a grihasta early on in the Gaudiya Math, that was the principle for the grihastas, 16 rounds. So the sannyasis were chanting 64 rounds in brahmacharis, and the grihastas, the family people, 16 rounds. Because how are you going to do a full day's work, 8 to 10 hours, and then for 6 hours and then eat for an hour or whatever and chant rounds. That's not going to fit. 24 hours, isn't it? But sannyasis, brahmacharis are not working for 8 to 10 hours, so they've got that extra time. But say 64 rounds might take 6 hours or so. It will take a little bit. So about, say, if 16 takes 2 hours, then 8 hours. Yeah, 16, that would be 8 hours. If it took 2 hours to chant 16 rounds, it would be about 8 hours. But yeah, sannyasis don't have that work to do or whatever, so they can spend 8 hours or whatever to chant 64 rounds, but not practical so much for grihastas if they've got a full-time job to support the family. So it said that when Prabhupada was a grihasta, he would chant, or how he got it done every day. He had a system that he would chant 4 rounds before a meal. Means if he doesn't chant 4 rounds, he doesn't eat a meal. So if you want to eat your breakfast, you got to chant 4 rounds. If you want to eat your lunch, chant 4 rounds. And you want to eat your dinner, you got to chant 4 rounds. And then before going to bed, 4 rounds. So, and if you don't chant 4 rounds, then you don't go to bed. So that was the way he mentioned that he did it. And of course, everyone has to work it out. I prefer to chant all my rounds in the morning before I start my day. So, 95% of the time I get 16 rounds done before I have breakfast, before I start. Because I find, you all have different experiences, but I find when the day starts, all hell breaks loose and then it gets hard to get it done. And also at the end of the day, I'm feeling tired and everything, and I'm not able to concentrate so well and like that. And also, if I don't do my rounds in the morning, I feel anxiety. That when am I going to chant my rounds? When am I going to chant my rounds?
Yeah.
It creates stress, and I don't need stress.
No, it certainly does. And then so many things will get in your way,
No, and you can't. Something crazy will happen, and then the time you were planning to chant doesn't happen. That's why the early morning is good. Brahma Muhurta means the spiritual time of the day. Before the sunrise is the mode of goodness, Sattva Guna. When the sun comes up, then it changes to Rajaguna, mode of passion. So mode of passion means so many activities going on like that. But before the sun rises, it's very quiet, peaceful time. The kids are sleeping, the animals are sleeping, all the karmis haven't become active yet, and the phone's not ringing, there's no disturbances.
And a wife is sleeping too.
Yeah, probably like that. The wife is sleeping too.
Husband sleeping
too. It said in the Krishna book, you can read it there. When Krishna was in Dwarka and married 16,108 wives, he was when the rooster would crow in the morning about an hour and a half before sunrise. Typically, the rooster will make his noise at that time.
Yeah, that's alarm.
Isn't that amazing? That's like nature's alarm clock. Krishna has created the rooster to make a noise at the perfect time for you to get up. Although I noticed some Kali Yuga roosters, they're a bit lazy. They start a bit late. But if you find a Satya Yuga rooster, he crows at the right time, about 1.5 hours before sunrise. Yeah, and then Krishna would get a bed, and Rukmini and other wives would be clinging to Krishna, but he would still get up, and they would curse the rooster. All the queens hated roosters because of the rooster that Krishna would get out of bed like that and leave their embrace like that. So, but yeah, Krishna would get up early too, and he would wash his hands and feet and face, and then meditate, and then chant like that. Although, because he is Krishna, he had no other choice but to meditate on himself.
So what's he chant on? Himself?
Well, actually, it said he would meditate on himself. It didn't say what kind of meditation he was doing. But interesting, and in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, at some particular points, Lord Chaitanya was chanting the names of the gopis because he's Krishna, right? He was Krishna. So sometimes he would chant the names of the gopis. And one young Hindu Brahmana heard him chanting the names of the gopis and criticized Lord Chaitanya. Why are you chanting the names of the gopis? You should be chanting Hare Krishna. And then Lord Chaitanya got very upset and he like chased after him with a stick like that. And the guy, his life, he was so afraid. But yeah, that was maybe he was in the mood of Krishna at that time and he was chanting the names of the gopis. You know, when he was young, Krishna, he had some beads and he was chanting the names of his cows on the beads. He was, saying the cow's name. He had different groups of cows and he was chanting the names of his cows like that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so we're chanting, we love Krishna, we chant his names, and if Krishna loves us, he might say our names.
Wow. And the guru before Prabhupada's guru was the Babaji man. What's his
Short, walk is short, that's Babaji, yes.
And he just chanted all day, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he was only chanting, that's all he did.
He was only chanting.
Yeah.
But
He's called a Bhajanandi. So there's two different processes. Bhajanandi, that means one who takes pleasure in bhajan, in worshipping the Lord. So he's always chanting in that, chanting and worshipping the Lord. And then there's Ghostyanandi. Ghostyanandi means trying to increase the number of devotees. It means preaching. So you try to increase the number of devotees to bring more and more people to Krishna, thinking that Krishna will be more happy if there's more devotees. If, 10 devotees, Krishna will be more pleased than having one devotee. And if there's 100 devotees, Krishna will be more pleased than 10 devotees. And 1,000, Krishna will be more pleased than 100. So the more we increase the congregation of devotees, then Krishna will be happy. So that's Ghostyanandi, is a preacher always trying to bring in more devotees. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and Prabhupada, they had that Ghostyanandi mood. But Gaurkashudas Babaji had that Bhajananandi mood. He was just absorbed in bhajan. He didn't go out preaching. However, we shouldn't think that, if you're just chanting the holy name all the time, then that's not helping anyone. Because actually, if Krishna is pleased by our pure chanting, actually the whole world benefits. All the animals will benefit, and the plants will benefit, the people will benefit if we can purely chant. So it's not that they weren't benefiting anyone just by sitting down under a tree and chanting. It's actually benefiting everyone too. But yeah, there's two different moods. One's just worshipping the Lord by chanting, and the other's trying to help other people become Krishna conscious. He's also chanting, of course. Even the Ghostyanandi is chanting, but after doing some amount of chanting, he'll go out and try to preach and help other people like that.
Okay.
So yeah, chanting is a essential part. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. This is the main thing that's going to get us back to Godhead, especially in Kali Yuga, is chanting. This is the Yuga Dharma. In every age or Yuga, there's a Dharma. It means like religious principles recommended to get liberated from the material world, go back to Godhead. And in Kali Yuga, it's Harinam Sankirtan. So Harinam, so God's names. And Sankirtan means chanting together. So that's ideal. That obviously, so japa we chant, by ourselves. But kirtan means, coming together with other devotees and chanting. So especially that's very nice. And of course, you can come together and chant with devotees in a temple, or you can come together and chant with devotees on the street, like that Harinam. That's very ecstatic. And that's very pleasing to the Lord. You're taking it out into the public so they can also hear the holy name like that. So this is the recommended process to get liberated from the material world, that we come together and chant the holy name. That's a very important part. And of course, within the chanting, then you've got kirtan, loudly chanting, and then japa, softly chanting. Like that. And then the next thing mentioned, yatantascha drita vrata. So yatantas means endeavoring, fully endeavoring, and drita vrata, with determination. And you see that in Prabhupada's life so much. Great example. So determined to carry out the order of his Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and to spread Krishna consciousness over the world. So that was a lot of endeavor Prabhupada made, isn't it? 70-year-old man, that was a big endeavor to go on the boat, have 2 heart attacks, try to preach to Westerners who don't have much interest in Krishna consciousness. For the first year, from 1965 to 66, hardly anyone took any interest. He was becoming very despondent, but he didn't give up because he had that determination given to him by his guru's order. But yeah, it was a very difficult time. And then only after 1 year, some people slowly took an interest when he went out into the park and did a public chanting in the Tompkins Square Park. And that attracted the first devotees through that kirtan in the park. And then they came back to the famous 26 Second Avenue? I think that's what it was, 26 Second Avenue. The first temple, they came back to hear classes like that. And then some got initiated like that. And then traveling all around the world, difficult. I mean, traveling on planes, I don't know how Prabhupada did it at that age, constantly traveling. It's I think that's the biggest austerity for modern day sannyasis, is always going around on planes all the time. It's so difficult. All the time, changing the time zones, and it's really messes up with.
And he kept his same routine, whatever, didn't he? Just an incredible consistency wherever he was. However how much sleep he had or didn't have, he'd get up and chant rounds and go for his walk, and that's amazing.
Jet lag, like most other people, jet lag if you change on its own, but Prabhupada no jet lag. So determined. So determined. So, but of course, this endeavoring with great determination, that means to please Krishna. See, karmis or materialistic people also endeavor with great determination, some of them, but that's for their own personal sense gratification. So that's completely different. For our own sense gratification, actually, devotees don't make much endeavor, live very simply. So an advanced devotee is not going to make a big endeavor to make a big fancy house for himself. Therefore, Gulshan's living very simply in his van. Not much endeavor, just real simple. Doesn't want to pay heavy rent or mortgage and all these kind of things. So for one's own self, not make much endeavor. But for Krishna's sake, prepared to make so much endeavor. Just like now in India, 40 million people making a big endeavor to go in the freezing cold, Ganges, Saraswati, Yamuna.
Mahatsevak being there too, our chef.
Oh, yeah.
And in the first, And he had the good bath in Prayagraj. He coming back this weekend. That's why the Bhakti tree opened a bit late, because supposed to open 22nd, but didn't, because he's not back yet. So he did the Ganges, and then seen that lot of the saintly people coming from, I don't know, from Himalayas or from woods or jungles and all that.
Big endeavor. Some of them have walked for thousands of kilometers to get back.
How did they know this day? They don't have any computers or phones or anything. So it's great. How did they know that? Because they're not sitting in the woods. They got outside the world. They don't got no news, nothing. How did they know date and time and exactly? And then they walk thousands of kilometers and come back on the same day and time, jump into the Ganges straight. So it's like somewhere the Krishna in there. That too, they must be meditating on Krishna and then or They're getting the knowledge from the source out there up in the sky.
Mm.
Yeah, it's very nice.
You might
Yeah.
want it slow.
It's 400 million people is equal to a population of Canada and America.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, incredible.
In one spot on the
In one
Ganges. Can you
spot.
imagine? And then these 400 million people, and what about their food and their sleeping and their toilet? And I did not know how did the Indian government arrange all that.
Yeah.
They've made some pretty good arrangements this year. They've made fancy
No,
arrangements.
make it up.
Even
A lot of, like,
ISKCON has a mega
ISKCON,
kitchen there.
Mega
Mega
kitchen. A
kitchen.
lot of other organizations has a kitchen as well. ISKCON has a kitchen as well. Very good food you'll get everywhere.
Yeah.
Free food and oh yeah, it's great. I've seen on the YouTube clips there. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So yeah, for Krishna's pleasure, for his satisfaction, devotees are prepared to take a lot of effort, a lot of austerity. But for our own sake, devotees can't be bothered, you know. So materially, devotees are quite lazy, but spiritually very active, but materially lazy. And materialistic people can't understand the devotees because they like often that would be the criticism, like when devotees are doing Harinam and stuff. Oh, why don't you get a job? Come on, get a job, you lazy bum. Often he's, criticizing the devotees, but realizing actually that the devotees making a big endeavor to get up at 4 a.m. or even before that. Even actually, Janananda Maharaj had mentioned in his Vasapuja yesterday that one devotee from Sydney, Shamananda, had come there to Auckland, and he'd mentioned that he got up at 1:30 in the morning, probably to do some kitchen work or something. So he got up at 1:30 in the morning. That's a big endeavor. Most people could never do that. They love their beauty sleep. But devotees, will sacrifice that, to work hard. And, they cooked a big feast and everything like that. And it's a lot of endeavor. So many preparations to feed, hundreds of people like that. And but this is for Krishna's pleasure. Devotees will make a lot of effort. But for themselves, they don't, not so active like that. This is the life of a devotee. And then it's mentioned namasyantas chamam bhaktya. So that means offering obeisances in devotion. Bowing down. So what's the significance of a devotee bowing down? What do you think? Why do we bow down? What's the purpose?
It depends where you bow down to the someone. If you do, so it's like you are bowing down to if I bow down to you, I'm bowing down to a Krishna in you, to the Krishna in you. It's if you're bowing down to someone, inside their Krishna is in, it's there in everyone's heart. So you're bowing down to Krishna. Whether it's you're bowing down to Bhaktimala, but still I'm bowing down to Krishna in Bhaktimala.
It's also humbling as well, like you said, offering like that you're nothing, and you're sort of
Humble as a
giving
great blade of grass.
appreciation to the person, so in a way.
Yeah. This act or ritual of bowing down is actually meant to awaken that humility in us, that we're very small, that Krishna is very great and we're very small, and we should bow down to Krishna. Bow down to Krishna. And if we're proud, then people that are proud will find it difficult to bow down to someone if they're a proud person. But a humble person, they can very easily bow down like that. And even if you don't feel very humble, that's a good way to become humble, is by practicing to bow down. So don't wait to become humble and then I'll start bowing down. No, just bow down now. And if you're not humble, that'll make you humble. One time there was a new bhakta had come. He then became later on Gargamuni, famous Prabhupada disciple. And but in the very beginning when he came, he asked the question at the end of the class. He said, Swamiji, I noticed that at the end of the class, everyone bows down to you. But I don't feel like bowing down to you. I feel that it would be superficial for me to bow down to you if I don't really feel like bowing down to you. So is that correct that, you know, that until the feeling comes, then I shouldn't bow down? Prabhupada said no. He said you should bow down to me, and then by doing that, then the feeling will come. Not that you wait for the feeling first and then you do the activity. No, by doing the activity, then the feeling will come. Yeah. So that was an interesting point. That these activities will awaken some particular feeling in us, like humility, for example. So bowing down is a very good way to do that. The top part of our body is our head, so we put that down low. So we visualize ourselves as just like at the dust of Krishna's feet, like that. And then there's also the dandavat, you know, laying flat on the ground. So there's different ways.
Danda.
Yeah. Some people just fold their palms. That's one way of offering respect. And then the next level, more better, is to put your head on the ground. And then more better is to lie flat on the ground like a stick, like a rod. It's called dandavat, laying flat like a rod. And then traditionally also, back in time, as a sign of humility, they would take another step further again and get some straw, some dry grass, and put it in their mouth, in their teeth, and clench that in their mouth. They have a bundle of straw and then lie flat dandavat with that straw in there. So that's really bringing in the visualization that you're as low as the grass. You're as low as the grass. Even when the grass is very low, right? It gets all trampled on under people's feet. It gets all trampled on. And the grass doesn't complain and it doesn't bounce up. It just stays flat like that under the feet. So that was like when Rupa and Sanatan approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they had this bundle of straw in their mouth and then they lay flat around in front of Chaitanya. So yeah, it's a ritual to help us develop more humility and break down our pride, our false pride, like that. So I'm not recommending you get some pieces of grass and put in your mouth, but I'm just explaining what that was done for. Prabhupada didn't do the grass one in his time, so we shouldn't do that. But yeah, that's the purpose of that. You know, we want to try to develop humility. That's the main thing. But if you just do the ritual of bowing down, and then you're not really surrendered to Krishna or the representative, the guru or whatever, then what's the point? I mean, you're missing the point. You know, there's heaps of devotees that bow down, but, you know, if a lot of them, they don't do what they're told, then what's the point of that? You know, if you bow down, that's like signifying that you're the servant and then you're going to be obedient to what the master says. But when the master speaks and then you don't follow it, then what's that mean? That's like contradictory. So yeah, that bowing down signifies that we're the servant of Krishna and Krishna's representative. So we should be obedient like that. Otherwise, it's just becoming a meaningless ritual and we haven't understood what the purpose of it is.
I remember I used to bow down too quickly, and you said to me once, "Well, you don't, you know, it's better if you spend a bit of time, you know, don't jump straight back up." And I said, "Everybody's around me is watching me," and you said something like, "Well, it's Krishna consciousness, not Krishna self-consciousness," or something like that. Because I was just doing it really ritualistic, you know, just wasn't really meditating on it very much.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing memory. Sweet memory. Reminds me, one editor editing Prabhupada's books was coming very often into his room to ask him questions in regards to the words in the book. And the first time he came in, he stayed on the ground, a normal amount of time, and said the prayers, for the spiritual master. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamane. Like that. And then the second time, a bit less, third time less, fourth time less. And then after several times, it was just quickly putting his head on the ground and then pop back up. Robert said, "What is this jackhammer?" Jackhammer. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Jackhammer. He said, "What is this jackhammer?" You like chastise him. No, you have to, keep your head on the ground and say the prayers of, obeisance to the spiritual master. Because this is important to help keep this humility in our mind, because in the material world, we're always under the influence of Maya. So all this pride and envy and so many rubbish contaminations can always pop up. So to counteract, getting covered by Maya again, we always need to follow these devotional principles like that. So we don't want to get too familiar with the other devotees or Krishna like that, and lose that feeling of respect. So that's so important. Like they say, familiarity breeds contempt. So we don't want to be someone we're very close to. That can often happen that we don't have respect for them, take them for granted. We have to guard against these things. And that's the difficulty of, if you're living with an advanced devotee, then you might start to become a bit casual and slack about these things. But yeah, we need to be careful about that. Be careful about that. Okay, let's get into the purport. And the other thing is that it's mentioned these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So perpetually means eternally. Nitya means eternal. Yukta means engaged. So perpetually or eternally engaged. So it's not that we're chanting now, and when we go back to the spiritual world, there's no more chanting. And we're bowing down now, but when we go back to the spiritual world, there's no more bowing down. And we're working hard now for Krishna, but when we go back to the spiritual world, there's no more working hard. No, these things are eternally there. So there's chanting going on in the spiritual world. There's devotees making so many endeavors, acting to please Krishna and bowing down to Krishna. So these activities are eternal. They're never to be given up like that. The only thing is, now in the material world, the difference is that we might be chanting mechanically because we haven't developed full love of Krishna. But in the spiritual world, you have full love for Krishna, and you'll be chanting with tears coming out of your eyes like that. Chanting will be tears coming out of your eyes. I was listening to this, I saw this video of some devotees chanting in Vrindavan just before their spiritual master passed away. They were chanting together in a room with their spiritual master, and he was a disciple of Prabhupada. And it's mentioned a few days after that video he passed away. So, boy, the chanting was just nectar. It was just really nectar and very emotional like that, and really capturing the mind, really absorbing. And the devotees were just in trance like that. So in the spiritual world, the devotees are chanting in ecstasy and love for Krishna and crying, and so much feeling is there. Now we might be chanting mechanically, ritualistically, or whatever like that, our mind somewhere else. So there's a bit of a difference in that, but the activities are the same. So the chanting is in the material world, it's in the spiritual world. All our activities are here and then in the spiritual world. So these activities are eternally. But the main thing, like it's mentioned, is devotion. So we should always try to remember that devotion part, underline that. That's why it's called devotional service, right? It's not just called service, but devotional service. So when we chant, we should try to bring some feeling into our chanting. So our heart, when we're doing our work, our activities, bring some devotion into it. Do it with devotion for Krishna, whether it's cooking or cleaning or gardening or artwork or whatever it is. And, bowing down also with devotion, with some feeling like that. And like one time Prabhupada was explaining the mantra. He said the mantra for offering food. We all know what the mantras for offering food are, right? We say the mantra to the Guru and Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prem Padayate to Lord Chaitanya, then Namo Brahmanya Devaya Brahmataya Cha, and so forth to Krishna, and then Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda to Panchatattva, and then Hare Krishna. Those are the mantras. But Prabhupada one time said the mantra for offering food is, please take, my Lord, please take. I'm begging you, please take this offering. I'm not qualified to offer to you, but I'm most rotten person. I'm simply trying to assist. My spiritual master has ordered me to offer this food to you, and I'm trying to carry out his order. So please take. I'm not like that. So he'd explain that's the mantra for offering. So it's more about a feeling, devotion to how do we offer the food, not just mechanically, but with devotion. Because Krishna says, like 9th chapter, text 26, we can look at that. This is the Prasadam verse in the Bhagavad Gita. And this is giving the reason why are we vegetarian. Why are we vegetarian? Because that's what Krishna wants.
The one offer me with the love and devotional leaf, flower, fruit, and water, I'll accept it. It hasn't mentioned chicken. If it's mentioned there, I'll definitely offer.
Yeah.
Whatever is mentioned, I can only leaf, flower, fruit, and water.
So if Krishna ate chicken, then we would too, and we wouldn't be vegetarian.
Yeah, that's right. Whatever 4 things, that's right.
Yeah. So, but this thing mentioned twice in this verse is bhakti, in the 2nd line and 3rd line. So with devotion. So this is a very important element. It doesn't have to be a special item. Oh, I cooked this first class food for you, Krishna. It's got the best ghee and the best sugar and the best samosas and the best gulabs and everything like that, cooked by the best cook and everything like that. And but if you're just proud in that and you don't have any devotion, then Krishna may not accept. Like one time when Krishna came to Hastinapur, then Duryodhana invited Krishna to come to his palace. He had, Paka Brahmin cooks with first-class ingredients and everything, like Chapan Bhog, 56 items, so many things. And Krishna didn't go there.
He went there to Vidur.
Vidura's house, and all he got there was some green leaves, which are like weeds, weed from the side of the road, and cook that and have it with rice. And then when he got in there, Vidura's wife was so confused out of ecstasy to have Krishna in her house that she threw the bananas in the bin and gave Krishna
the leaf.
Gave him the peels. And Krishna ate the peels because he accepted that invitation, even it's just rice and some weeds and banana peels, because it was with devotion. So it doesn't have to.
What happened there after that? If she was given only the skin and throwing the banana, and after few banana leaf Krishna ate, and the Vidu told that, oh, you give in the leaf instead of banana. She said, oh, I'm sorry. Then she gave her a banana. Krishna said, that's it, I'm done, no more. Because the ecstasy, their love was there in the skin. Now it's not there. Now it's yeah, he didn't eat more. He said, that's it, I'm done. So yeah, it's a lot.
Krishna, he's self-sufficient Atmarama. He doesn't need anything.
Yeah.
All he really wants from us is our love in our heart. So we should, the purpose of all of our practices is actually to try to awaken this feeling. This, like Prabhupada mentioned in the beginning, you bow down, you don't have the feeling. But if you keep bowing down, then the feeling will come. So that's our hope, that even though now it might be mechanical or whatever like that, but if we keep trying, keep doing it, then gradually the feeling will come like that if we keep doing our duty. So in the beginning,
it'll come only if the mercy of Krishna. Krishna will give some mercy, then feeling will come. It's entire.
That week after week, year after year, decade after decade, we're trying best to serve him, then Krishna will become pleased, like Gulshan's saying.
Pleased
and
with that, yes.
No, Gulshan's really trying, Bhakti Mala's really trying, Abhi's really trying. Okay, I'll give him some mercy. Like,
Only happen, Krishna pleased.
Okay.
Mercy.
Yeah. But that mercy comes after our endeavor.
Yes,
like,
of course. It's not like a mercy come first, then I'm going to bow down. No, it's not going to happen like that.
I'm just going to lie down on the couch and wait for Krishna's mercy to come. No, you have to backside and do some work, for Krishna, and then Krishna will see that you're working hard.
Even if the king of the lion, the king of the jungle, the deer doesn't come to him, okay, eat me. He has to get up and hunt. Even he's a king of the jungle, he still has to get up and hunt. So
yeah,
same as us. We have to get up 4:30 in the morning. No excuse. That's it. And then if somehow Krishna mercy will happen, maybe not this life, next life, or life after life, one day Krishna will say, okay, I think I've seen enough. Then probably his mercy, we might see something then. No time limit.
True. Yes. So that's the purpose of our endeavors, is try to attract his merciful glance to help pull us up. But yeah, it begins, we have to stick to doing our duty. And Prabhupada gives a very nice example how love comes out of duty. So the example he gives is of the traditional marriage system in India. Traditionally, the parents would select a partner for their kids.
Love
and
come up.
the kids wouldn't even know who they're marrying, so there's no question of love, any attraction, because they didn't even know who they're going to marry until...
My mom doesn't know that whom she's going to marry there. She's seen my dad first day on the wedding day.
Yeah.
Seen dad before, I told you that.
And traditionally, they're getting married before puberty, so there's no lust. Because, lust, the attraction for the opposite sex only comes after puberty. And but previously, especially the girl, she would get married before puberty. The boy might be a bit older, but definitely from the girl's point of view, there was no lust or attraction there. And then they would dutifully serve each other. The woman would do her duties to her husband. The husband would do her duties to the wife. And they would do that year after year, decade after decade. And then in due course of time, if the husband died before the wife, then it used to be that the wife felt so much separation from her husband, love, that she would jump in the funeral fire. And this was called the sati, like that, sati. And then if anyone tried to stop her from jumping in, good luck, because she was so determined, talking about determination, she was so determined to go in that fire. Actually, the funeral fire was not as hot, not as burning as the fire in her heart of separation from her husband. So that's quite a bit of love.
Yeah.
And Eventually what happened is Kali Yuga came in, and then the wife's not doing her duties anymore, the husband's not doing any duties anymore. So that real love doesn't develop so much. And then the Hindus are thinking, oh, that we have to continue this tradition. So they would throw the woman in the fire, even though she didn't want to go.
It's Britishers, they came and they stopped the law. They make it that there's no sati in India when they were ruling in India. That's the one they stopped that. It's no way she can jump in the fire. Maybe they didn't understand the rituals and all the things there, culture and things.
At the point that the woman didn't have that real love and feeling of separation, at that point that ritual doesn't work anymore.
That's right. Yeah, there's
as long as that real love bond was there with the man and woman. But Prabhupada's using that as an example to point out how from duty then love develops. So that we apply that in Krishna consciousness. So we have our different duties. The spiritual master's giving us the duty to chant 16 rounds at least, follow the 4 regulated principles, and try our best to spread Krishna consciousness to whoever we meet. And then by doing these duties, then gradually our feelings for Krishna will develop more and more. And very nice process. Okay, let's read the purport. Bhakti Mala, do you want to start the first paragraph? The Mahatma.
The Mahatma cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping an ordinary man. His symptoms are described here. A Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. He has no other business. He is always engaged in the glorification of the Lord. In other words, he is not an impersonalist. When the question of glorification is there, one has to glorify the Supreme Lord, praising his holy name, his eternal form, his transcendental qualities, and his uncommon pastimes. One has to glorify all of these things. Therefore, a Mahatma is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
You remember I was saying that, Bhakti Mala?
Sorry?
You remember I was saying about kirtan is not just the name.
Yes.
This means saying that here. Has eternal form, that's Leela Kirtan. Transcendental qualities, that's Guna Kirtan. Uncommon pastimes, that's Leela Kirtan. So so there's different ways of glorifying the Lord. His holy name is one of them, but there's other features of the Lord that one can glorify these things. And if you do that, you're always glorifying the Lord in these different ways, then you're a Mahatma.
Do you want me to keep reading?
Yeah, we'll just speak a little bit more about this.
Okay.
And he's saying in the beginning, Mahatma cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping an ordinary man. So Prabhupada's probably saying this because of Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi was given the name Mahatma. So that's probably why Prabhupada threw that in there. You can't rubber stamp an ordinary man. So like that, Prabhupada said he was a politician, but you can't rubber stamp a politician as a Mahatma. Mahatma is always glorifying the Lord. Gandhi was always trying to kick the British out of India, but that's not the definition of a Mahatma. Mahatma is always glorifying the Lord.
But if you say like that, what about the Chanakya Pandit? Was he Mahatma or not?
I've never heard anyone say that he was a Mahatma.
He was a Pandit as well, but he was helping politician like a king to in the ruling.
Yeah,
and
he was a very Paka Brahmana, but not necessarily.
Yeah, Brahmana, but like he was a helping politician too.
Prabhupada quoted him a lot because called Chanakya Niti. So Niti means law.
Yeah.
So he was good with his statements were soundly based on logic and reasoning. So
till today, it's still very good statement. He said that till today is valid.
yeah, and Prabhupada used his statements a lot, but that doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean he's a Mahatma. So this is the definition here, always glorifying the Lord in these different ways. So yeah, I wouldn't say Chanakya fits into that category, but yeah, he was a Brahmana, but Brahmana does not mean automatically a Mahatma. Mahatma is above a Brahmana, above a Brahmana. Yeah, always glorifying the Lord, no other business. Says he has no other business. He's always engaged.
Glorifying that. So that
Yeah.
yes. So all
Other,
these
other than glorifying the Lord, and you'd not be entitled to that Mahatma.
so like
Is it-
Radhanath Maharaj and Jananda Maharaj, they are Mahatma.
Yeah, if they're always glorifying the Lord, yes, correct. Yeah. Okay, Gulshan, you read the next one, and then Bhakti Malak can read.
One who is attached to the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmajyoti, is not described as Mahatma in Bhagavad Gita. He is described in a different way in the next verse. The Mahatma is always engaged in different activities or devotional service as described in Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing and chanting about Vishnu, not a demigod or human being. This is devotion. This is the long line there. Remembering him, such a Mahatma has firm determination to achieve at the ultimate end of the association of Supreme Lord in any one of the 5 transcendental rasa. To achieve the success, he engaged all activities mentally, bodily, vocal, everything in the service of Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. This is called full Krishna consciousness. Continue.
Oh, not for now. Not for now. So that's interesting. Prabhupada's explaining, because that term is used a lot, Krishna consciousness. So what's Krishna consciousness? So Prabhupada's explaining here that engaging all activities, mental, bodily, and vocal, everything in the
Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, there's 9 processes of devotional service. So Prabhupada's mentioned the first 3 here. Shravana means hearing, Kirtana means chanting, and Vishnu Smarana means remembering Vishnu. And then, do you know what some of the other ones are? What's the total 9? So there's the first 3. Hearing, chanting, and remembering. What are some of the other 6?
Serving the deity.
Yes. That's Archana.
Making friends.
Yep, Sakya.
Full surrender.
Yep, Atmanivedanam. Yep, very good. 3 more.
Remembering. Serving the Lord's feet.
Yes, very good. Padasevanam.
Now I'm lost because I've done them all in funny order.
Right, no, did well. And then there's Vandanam, prayers, offering prayers. And then Dasyam, menial service, like Hanuman Dasyam. So there's different examples given of each of the 9 processes who became perfect by that particular process. The example given for hearing, who perfected himself by hearing, is who became liberated, perfect by just by hearing about Krishna. Parikshit Maharaj, right? The Bhagavatam, he was hearing from Shukadeva Goswami. And chanting, who became perfect by chanting? Shukadeva Goswami. He was just talking about Krishna and he became perfect. And then Vishnu Smaranam, who was always remembering Vishnu or Krishna? Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was always remembering while he was thrown off a cliff, put in a pot of boiling oil, attacked with dangerous weapons, given poison. He was just always remembering the Lord. And then Archanam, worshipping. So who's said to have perfected their worshipping process is Prithu Maharaj in his worship, perfect worship. And Vandanam said Akrura, when he was taking Krishna and Balaram from Vrindavan to Mathura, he offered some beautiful prayers. So those prayers are very famous, Akrura's prayers. And then Dasyam, Hanuman is given the example, perfect servant, carrying out the orders of the Lord. And then Padasevanam, worshipping the feet. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is always worshipping and massaging her husband's feet. And then Sakyam, Arjuna.
Gopi was Sakya too?
No, just feeling that the Lord is your friend. They weren't feeling, they're feeling he's my lover. Like it's me, 5 kind of rasas. So that's a different rasa. The Gopi's rasa is like Madhurya or Sringa ras.
Okay, yeah. Arjuna was a Sakya.
It is a friend. And another, I was reading the pastime of Sudama. Sudama was his friend. So he was definitely feeling. He was so poverty-stricken, he didn't have enough food or a proper roof over his head. And his wife begged him to go to Krishna, his rich friend Krishna, and get some money from him. He didn't want any money, but he took it as an opportunity to see Krishna. And he was in so much ecstasy, thinking about his friend. Krishna's such a good friend. I can't wait to see him. And then as soon as Krishna saw him, he was sitting on his seat, his bed, in as Rukmini's palace, and Rukmini was massaging him and worshipping him. And then he got up off his seat and he ran at Sudama and gave him a big hug. And then sat Sudama down in his seat, and then washed his feet.
Yeah, because he was the Brahmana. Sudama was the Brahmana.
Water on his. Krishna put Sudama's water on his head. And then he fed Sudama, did arati, and gave him a place to sleep, and treated him so friendly way, such nice friendship like that. So this is a good example. Arjuna, Sudama, to have that. Krishna's my friend. He's my best friend. One time, Prabhupada said, not one time, but many times, that Krishna is our only friend. He's our only friend. No one else is our friend other than Krishna. And one time in a class, a devotee said, Prabhupada, you've said in another class that a devotee is our friend. But now you're saying Krishna is our only friend, but you said another time that the devotee is our friend. And Prabhupada said, yes, the devotee is our friend because he tells us that Krishna is our friend. So our only real friend is Krishna, but someone that points out to another person that your only friend is Krishna, that person's also our friend. But in actual fact, we can't help anyone, isn't it? What kind of friend are we really? That can you stop someone from growing old? Can you stop someone from getting sick? Can you stop someone from dying? You know, so you can't help ourselves. We can't stop ourselves from dying, let alone help someone else. So what can we really do in terms of being a real friend to anybody? But if you point someone out to Krishna and they connect with Krishna, then Krishna can stop them from dying. You know, well, not stop them from dying, but stop them from taking birth again. They won't have to take birth again. And then if they don't take birth again, then no more old age, no more disease, no more death. You know, so we want to direct people to Krishna, and that's real friendship, real love. But yeah, interesting what Prabhupada's saying here. What's the definition of Krishna consciousness? So service of the Supreme Lord Krishna with your body and your mind and your words. Body, that's full Krishna consciousness. Use everything that you have. What's everything that you have? You have body, you have mind, you have your words. So use those things.
My mum said the other day, we were talking about Prabhupada. She loves hearing about Prabhupada, and she said, "Geez, I wish I could have met him." And I said,
Yeah.
"Well, I wish I knew him, you know." And I said, "Well, he's in his book. He's in the books, Mum. You just got to read the books." So I think she's getting a step closer because she's getting attached to Prabhupada and hearing about him.
By being attached to Prabhupada. Wow, that's great.
It's nice to hear her say that. That we should met him.
Right. Yeah. That's lovely to hear. Wow.
Yeah, I thought so.
It's Have you come across videos called Prabhupada Memories?
Yeah.
I don't know if that would work for her, if you think. She can listen to Prabhupada's disciples talking about him. I find that's the highest nectar.
Yeah.
Disciples, and they're all giving their different experiences with Prabhupada. Some of them make you laugh, some of them make you cry, some of them it's just
I'll have to mention that to her.
Yeah, just give her that name to look up, Prabhupada Memories, and there's heaps of them, heaps and heaps and heaps.
Yeah.
And some of them are men, some of them are women, so it's very balanced and everything, all different kinds of devotees, and they just ecstatic hearing them talk about Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Okay, Bhakti Mala, you want to read the next one? In devotional service.
In devotional service, there are certain activities which are called determined, such as fasting on certain days, like the 11th day of the moon, Ekodashi, and on the appearance day of the Lord. All these rules and regulations are offered by the great acharyas for those who are actually interested in getting admission into the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental world. The Mahatmas, great souls, strictly observe all these rules and regulations, and therefore they are sure to achieve the desired result.
So examples of determined activity, Ekadasi, Janmastami, like that. Like on Janmastami, devotees, fasting till midnight. And if one can't fast, then Prabhupada said you can take some fruits. If you find it too difficult, like you're gonna faint or something like that, you don't want to do that. If it's bad for your health or whatever, so just take some fruits. But yeah, it takes a lot of determination. It's not easy to do fasting on Janmastami. Ekadasi, there's different ways of following Ekadasi. Prabhupada just said enough is to not eat grains and beans and things. He himself would have Ekadasi food on Ekadasi. But some devotees don't eat any food. Some devotees don't even take water like that. You don't have to do that. But yeah, to whatever level of activity is, it's it takes some determination, like that, sacrificing one's own desires and like that, the pleasure of Krishna, which is this is a sign of love. That if you're giving up something you really like to do for someone else, what's that? You're sacrificing something that you really like to do for the sake of somebody else. What's that?
What's love?
It's love, yeah. Like a mother for her child, right? She might sacrifice her sleep. The child wakes up in the night and she has to get out of bed and look after the kid, or he's hungry and you have to feed the kid and stuff like that, and doesn't even get time to eat herself properly, or all these kind of things. So much difficulty she's voluntarily taking on for helping her child like that. So this is love. And the same way for Krishna, sometimes, devotees do that, sacrificing their sleep. Like on Janmashtami, we stay up till after midnight. So you sacrifice your beauty sleep, and fasting as well, sacrifice your food, like that. So these are things that are very precious to the materialistic person, food and sleep. So devotees are very determined to serve Krishna and, sacrifice these things, food and sleep and so forth. And Krishna will be very impressed, very touched that we're taking so much trouble, so much risk. Go to America and then other Western places to spread Krishna consciousness. Right.
I couldn't hear you then. I didn't know what happened.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. I just said, Gulshan, do you want to read the last paragraph?
Yeah.
As described.
As described in the second verse of this chapter, not only this devotion service easy, but it can be performed in a happy mood. One does not need to undergo any penance of austerity. He can live this life in devotion service guided by an expert spiritual master and in any position, either as a household or a sannyasi or a brahmachari, in any position and anywhere in the world, he can perform the devotion service to the Supreme Lord of Godhead and thus become actually Mahatma, the great soul.
So Prabhupada is referring to the second verse. So let's look at 9th chapter text 2. Saying from the second verse that not only is devotional service easy, but it can be performed in a happy mood. Second verse.
Generally, people are not educated in the confined knowledge that they are.
Translation of text 2.
Text 2, yes. The knowledge, this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secret. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed.
So Prabhupada is referring to this joyfully performed. Susukam kartam avyam. Susukam means very happily. Very happily. Kartam means to do it, to execute. So this process, Krishna consciousness, devotional service, as propagated by Lord Chaitanya, is mainly chanting, dancing, and feasting. That's the essence of the process, chanting and dancing and feasting. So it's a very happy process, very easy. And anyone, like Prabhupada would often say, even the child can chant Hare Krishna. Doesn't it? You'll see in the early days, so many little kids, and they're chanting Hare Krishna with the devotees, and they're dancing. So little kids enjoying dancing and chanting like that. And old people also can chant, maybe not dance, but they can chant like that. So and feasting, who can't do that? So everyone likes prasadam. And by doing these things, we can get all success. We can go back to Godhead. And that's actually what's going on in the spiritual world. What activities are in the spiritual world? Chanting, dancing, and feasting. This is the real life. That's the real life. In the spiritual world, it's said that every step is a dance and every word is a song. In the Brahma Samhita, there's one verse that says that. Every step is a dance, every word is a song. So it's such a happy life, serving Krishna. So natural. No, you don't have to stand on your head or press your nose or do work in a factory, an office, or any difficult things. So Prabhupada's mentioning that although, there are some endeavors, like Janmastami and Ekadasi, but nothing too difficult, nothing too difficult. Not like other processes, like the followers of Shankaracharya in personal philosophy, it was compulsory to be a sannyasi, compulsory. No association with the opposite sex. Otherwise, you can't take part in it like that. So, in other processes, they have to do severe austerities. Actually, I saw in this Mahakumbha Mela, there was one yogi, he had his hand in the air all the time, one hand.
Yeah.
One hand all the time. And one guy came, reporter, asking him some stupid questions.
Just fight with him.
He got angry. So the guy with one hand, he kept the one hand in the air, but the other hand, he picked up something and started. I know he was angry, just having to hold his hand up all the time. We hear Harini Kashipu, he stood on one leg for years and years, so long that an anthill grew around his body. That's how long he was standing there on one leg with his arms in the air. Yeah, his arms in the air too. So he was standing there on one leg with his arms in the air, and an anthill grew around him. So really difficult. What these yogis and that do, so many. What we have to do is not that difficult. It's a very happy process. And even that we don't want to do, then there's some problem there. Even it can't get more easier, joyful way. There's one beautiful song by Lochan Das Thakur. It says, what does it say? Kevala Nanda Kanda. Kevala means simply or only. Ananda, blissful. Kanda, path. Kevala Ananda Kanda. It's simply joyful, happy process. Just chanting, dancing, and feasting. At one time, Prabhupada said all a devotee does is chanting, dancing, feasting. But then devotees protested. I said, no, you tell us we have to, build temples. We have to go out and preach and distribute books and collect money. And, we have to, maintain the temples and everything. It's hard work and so many things. We have to go out and make money and look after families. Prabhupada said, no, devotees only chanting, dancing, and feasting. And giving arguments. We have to do this. And Prabhupada kept coming back to chanting, feasting. Eventually, Prabhupada explained that while a pure devotee does any other activity, he's working in an office for his family, or he's collecting money for the temple, or cleaning the floor of the temple, or putting out the rubbish, or cooking the feast, or whatever that. While a pure devotee is doing all the activities, he's just thinking about Krishna, and especially thinking about chanting. He's thinking about when I'll come together with the devotees and we'll chant and we'll dance and we'll have prasadam together. So they're just the devotees meditating on those three simple things, happy things, chanting, dancing, and feasting, while we're doing all of our other activities. There's activities that have to go on in the material world because we've got a body. So you have to, do some work, some activity to maintain the body. But while those bodily activities are going on, the advanced devotee is just meditating on what he really loves, he really enjoys, which is coming together with other devotees and chanting together and having prasadam together, dancing like that. So that's the meditation of the advanced devotees. There's mentioned one of Lord Chaitanya's followers was named Suklambara Brahmachari. And he had to go out as a brahmachari begging alms. So he would go door to door and collect a few food items so that he could get enough food to eat. But it said that while he was going and doing his bodily activities, collecting alms, he was just meditating on that tonight we're going to meet in Srivas Thakur's house, and we're going to meet with Lord Chaitanya and all the devotees, and we're going to chant, and we're going to dance, and we're going to take prasad. That was his meditation the whole day long. He didn't think about anything else. He's not just thinking about begging some food or anything like that. That's just externally what's going on. But it's internally what's going on is the most important thing. Not just the externals, but it's what's going on internally. What are we thinking about? Are we thinking about Krishna like that? So by doing all these duties, chanting and dancing and so forth, hearing about Krishna, then gradually our consciousness will be attracted to Krishna more and more, and we'll live happily ever after in reality, not like what it is, but in reality. Yeah. Anything you both like to say?
Yeah, pretty much done. All good.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most attractive things about when I first went to the temple was that it was joyful. As like I'd only really been to churches before for funerals and things like that, and they seemed like really dark, somber places. And then I came to the Hare Krishna temple, and people are singing and dancing, and it was a joyful place. I think that this is such a different experience to for worshipping God in that way.
Yes.
Yeah, because churches can be a bit sort of somber. Is that the word? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, but the temples are. It's so much joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your experience. That's nice.
Yeah.
And one thing Prabhupada also mentions in that purport, the last one, and in any position, either as a householder or sannyasi, brahmachari, anywhere in the world, perform devotional service. So that's beautiful. It's open to anyone and everyone. There's no one that's barred from this process. Doesn't matter if you're single or married. Doesn't matter which. You don't have to be in India. You could be in Australia or New Zealand or anywhere. It doesn't matter. You can do devotional service anywhere. And if you do devotional service anywhere and everywhere, then, like he says, and thus become actually Mahatma, a great soul. So actually, who is meant to be a Mahatma? We are supposed to become Mahatmas. That's what's indicated here, Prabhupada's saying. We all should come to this level as be a Mahatma, a great soul. And it's not hard. It's just by following this simple process that wherever you are, whatever position you're in, you're always chanting and about Krishna and hearing about Krishna, doing this devotional service, and then you become a great soul by following this easy process.
A really nice verse, this one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.